Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation. Dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees is conducive to devotional service, while service to the Vaishnavas is itself the supreme perfection and the root of the tender creeper of divine love. I observe with great care the holy days like Ekadasi and Janmashtami, for they are the mother of devotion. As my dwelling place, I choose with the greatest of reverence and love the transcendental abode of Sri Krishna. All those places where my Lord Gosundar traveled for pastimes, I will visit in the company of loving devotees. My mind always begs for the opportunity to hear the music of the mridanga. Upon hearing the kind of kirtan ordained by Lord Gaurachandra, my heart dances in ecstasy. By beholding the deity forms of the divine couple Sri Radha Krishna, I feel the greatest joy. By honoring the Lord's prasad, I conquer over all worldly illusions. Goloka Vrindavan appears in my home whenever I see the worship and service of Lord Hari going on there. Upon seeing the Ganges, which is a river of nectar emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord, my happiness knows no bounds. The sight of the holy Tulasi tree soothes my soul, for I know she gives pleasure to Lord Krishna. By honoring Sak, a dear favorite of Lord Chaitanya, I consider life worthwhile. Whatever Bhaktivinoda obtains that is conducive for the service of Sri Krishna, he accepts every day with the greatest of joy. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vijubha Paramahamsa Bhadabha Jagatacharya Ashotara Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace et si Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vijubha Paramahamsa Bhadabha Jagatacharya Ashotara Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय श्रीमती तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन की जय श्री श्री गौनिताई की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ सुभद्रा बलदेव की जय गौर प्रेमानंदी all glories to the Sambhavatis, all glories to the Sambhavatis, all glories to the Sambhavatis, all glories to Sri Guru Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. We are reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam, Volume 3, entitled Only He Could Lead Them. And this is the chapter 7, India Revisited, Part 2. Prabhupada's train, the Calcutta Mail, pulled into Delhi station. Prabhupada and his two disciples had tickets with reserved seat numbers, but no car number. So while Prabhupada waited with the baggage, Achyutananda and Ramanuja ran from one end of the train to the other, looking for their car. After they had found their seats and boarded, Achyutananda untied Prabhupada's bedding and spread it open on the upper tier. Prabhupada climbed the little ladder, sat comfortably on his cotton-stuffed quilt, and opened his Sanskrit Srimad Bhagavatam, while Achyutananda and Ramanuja took their seats. It would take around 24 hours to reach Calcutta. Near the end of the journey, a group of educated Bengali gentlemen struck up a philosophical conversation with the Swami. "We do not worship any form," said one, speaking fluent English in a loud, deep voice. "We have a marble Omkar that we worship, and we sit and pray to that." "That is also a form," said Prabhupada. He was reluctant to attack their philosophical position directly. "We practice karma yoga," the gentleman went on, not heeding Prabhupada's previous point. "Because in karma yoga, you can stay within your position. But karma yoga is not full surrender of the soul," said Prabhupada. "One must come to the stage of bhakti." "Oh no," the man protested. "Emotionalism is very harmful. Karma yoga," Srila Prabhupada exploded. "Karma yoga is for the fools." Silence. Another man, not with the Bengalis but seated beside them, spoke up. "Obviously, Swamiji is a learned scholar," he said. "You should not argue like that." The Bengali that Prabhupada had shouted at got up and moved to another seat. Later, he came back. "Are you insulted?" Prabhupada asked him. "No, no, no," he replied. "But I have never heard anyone say that about the teachings of the Gita." The Bengalis then talked with Achyutananda, lighting their cigarettes and smoking freely before him, although they had not dared to do so before Prabhupada. It was not proper to smoke in front of the sadhu. "Bengalis," Achyutananda told them, citing one of Prabhupada's examples, "we are very sorry that East Pakistan had been cut off from the rest of Bengal." This is 1971, at that time. But Krishna consciousness could elevate people to international, universal consciousness. Then there would not be any such division. The Bengalis appreciated Achyutananda's remark, though they continued to blow smoke in his face as the train rattled over the last miles to Calcutta. Prabhupada was greeted at Calcutta's Howrah station by relatives, mostly from his sister's family, and by devotees of the Goswami Mat. About 50 people were on hand. They offered Prabhupada flower garlands, and sandalwood paste, and then escorted him and his disciples into a car. Achyutananda and Ramanuja noticed that although Swamiji's sister was shorter and more rotund than Prabhupada, her facial features were strikingly similar. Her name was Bhavatarini, but Prabhupada told them to call her Pisima, aunt. As Prabhupada rode through the streets, he saw many images of Goddess Kali, 10-armed, riding a lion. Calcutta was observing the biggest religious celebration in Bengal, Kali Puja, a month of festivities in honor of the goddess Kali. Throughout the city, brass bands and radio music blared, and there were decorative lights, stages, and tents. When Prabhupada arrived at Pisima's house in South Calcutta, his relatives seated him and performed an arati ceremony in his honor, reverently offering him the traditional items, incense, a flaming lamp, flowers. They also bathed his feet. He sat smiling within the crowded room of relatives who were proud of his having journeyed to America on behalf of Lord Krishna. As Prabhupada's family members sang Hare Krishna Kirtan from outside the room, the ladies of the house began singing a high, shrill, whooping sound. Achyutananda and Ramanuja were startled. That is the sound. They are not accustomed to that. Pisima had prepared a large feast, most of it cooked in mustard seed oil, for the homecoming celebration. And Prabhupada satisfied her by honoring the prasadam, even though he wasn't feeling well and was tired from the train ride. Soon after the festivities, Prabhupada and his disciples retired. After his health wavered, this time because of his sister's heavy cooking, and he felt a strain on his heart. He sent for an Ayurvedic doctor who taught Achyutananda how to do a very gentle massage to help circulation and restricted Prabhupada from sweets. As Prabhupada recovered, he began regularly lecturing in his room during the evening. Although he spoke in English for his disciples, the room would soon fill to capacity with relatives and friends. There were generally disturbances from outside due to the noises of Kali Puja. Nearby Pisima's house was a large tent, a center for evening street parties, which included a sweets counter, fireworks, and an excessively loud public address system that incongruously blared Julie Andrews' swinging songs from the sound of music. One evening, as Prabhupada spoke, "My only qualification is that I have unflinching faith in my spiritual master." A large firecracker exploded right outside the door. The audience smiled tolerantly. "Yes," Prabhupada said, taking the explosion as confirmation of his words. "It is glorious." One night, Prabhupada explained that, according to Bhagavad Gita, demigod worshippers are less intelligent. People worship Kali for material rewards, he said, but since all material things are temporary, such worship is inferior to the worship of Krishna. Kali is not able to grant the worshipper liberation from birth and death. Which is better? Achyutananda asked. The worship of the Christians and Jews, which is mostly impersonal, or the worship of the non-absolute by the worshippers of Kali? Worship of Kali is better, Prabhupada said, because the worshippers are in the Vedic system. They are more likely to bow down to Radha Krishna or chant Hare Krishna than a Christian or Jew. There is a chance that they will become Krishna devotees in the future if they lose their material attachments. Prabhupada regularly invited his godbrothers and their disciples to join him in America. Sometimes he seemed to do it just to get them at least to think more of preaching. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had once chided that the Gaudiya Math ashram was no more than a joint mess. The members going out each day and collecting enough alms so that they could eat together, but with no dynamic vision for preaching. So Prabhupada's frequent invitations, "You should go to America, come back with me," would stir them, even if they could not actually come. On visiting the ashram of Bhaktisaranga Goswami, Prabhupada saw that the audience consisted almost entirely of old widows, but he spoke as usual. One day, Prabhupada's godbrother, Haridas Swami, came by. He was heavy-set and loud, and he spoke very rapidly. "Very happy to see you coming here from America. This is wonderful. Krishna is the summum bonum, the cause of all causes. I want you to come to my temple." When Haridas Maharaj went into a separate room, Prabhupada turned to Achyutananda. "He wants us to go to his temple, but to go there, I will have to go into a rickshaw, and then into a tram car, and then onto a train, and then another rickshaw." Aware of Prabhupada's weak condition, Achyutananda began shaking his head negatively. When Haridas Maharaj returned, Achyutananda said that Swamiji could not come to his mat. "Who are you?" Haridas Maharaj said angrily. "You are just a brahmachari. You should risk your life." Achyutananda replied, "I will risk my life, but I can't risk my spiritual master's life." Haridas Maharaj left insulted. "Don't worry," Prabhupada said, "he is just very talkative." Prabhupada paid a visit to B.P. Kesav Maharaj, the godbrother who had awarded him the sannyas order in 1959. Prabhupada sat on the floor and spoke in Bengali to his godbrother, who was very old and apparently on his deathbed. Prabhupada had Achyutananda sing for Kesav Maharaj. Kesav Maharaj requested Prabhupada to visit his ashram, Devananda Math in Navadvip. Srila Prabhupada had wanted to return to the USA as a permanent resident, but his students in America had not been able to get the necessary clearance from the US Immigration Department. The devotees in Boston had gotten in touch with a few Harvard Indology professors, but had obtained no signed statements about Prabhupada's importance. All the ISKCON centers had written formal letters inviting A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami and had presented copies to the US Immigration Office. But unless the devotees could produce something more impressive, like a government recommendation or a university's offer for him to join their faculty, Prabhupada could not become a US resident. On October 13, Prabhupada wrote to his disciples in Montreal, "I am very much anxious to go to Montreal. Therefore, you must try your best to get my immigration visa on the basis of my being an authorized Vaishnava minister, based on Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita." End of quote. Rather than wait indefinitely for permanent residency, Prabhupada decided to apply for a visitor's visa. He went with Achyutananda to the US consulate on Harriton Road. There, in the middle of Calcutta, they entered a small piece of America with everything shiny, new, and efficient. Air conditioners, stainless steel water coolers, electric security doors, US Marines, and American flags. Sitting before the secretary of the consulate, Prabhupada looked small and humble. "I want a visa to see my students in America," he said softly. "Do you have any letters?" the secretary asked. Achyutananda handed over the letters from the temples. The secretary reviewed them and quickly gave Prabhupada a 4-month visa. While leaving the building, Prabhupada remarked, "I will just get anything and then it can be extended." On October 19th, Prabhupada wrote Hayagriva regarding his imminent return. Quote from his letter: "I am already preparing for returning to USA, and I have obtained a visitor's visa the day before yesterday. Most probably, I shall take the first chance to return to USA upon my return from Navadvip." And on October 22nd, he wrote to Umapati, quote from his letter, "You will be glad to know that I have already secured a visitor's visa to your country and have asked my travel agent to book my seat on the earliest possible date. I think I shall be in your midst by the middle of November." End of the letter. On October 24th, Prabhupada traveled with Achyutananda and Ramanuja to Navadvip. Although the local train took 4 hours, the lush Bengal countryside gradually revealed its heavenly beauty, and Prabhupada's health seemed to improve just from the pleasant journey. By the time they arrived in Navadvip, Achyutananda and Ramanuja were also feeling relief from the rigors of Calcutta. For the first time in weeks, they could open their eyes without blinking through drops of perspiration. A large kirtan party of brahmachari, mostly members of Kesav Maharaj Devananda Gaudiya Math, met Srila Prabhupada at the Navadvip train station. The brahmacharis were meticulously neat, with their robes all dyed the same shade of saffron, their Vaishnava tilak markings bold and distinct, their heads smoothly shaved, their sikhas precise. They offered Prabhupada and his party aromatic garlands made from flowers resembling lotuses and gathered around Srila Prabhupada with more worshipful enthusiasm. Also present were a few of Sridhar Maharaj's disciples, waiting with rickshaws to take Prabhupada and his disciples to their guru's ashram. Although between the two groups there was an unspoken competition for Prabhupada's presence, he had previously agreed to go to Sridhar Maharaj's place. He promised the members of Devananda Math that he would visit them next. Soon after leaving the station, the rickshaws turned into a road lined with lush tropical vegetation, banana trees, tall bamboos, exotic blossoming flowers. Prabhupada saw simple villagers working near their straw and mud huts, and in the distance, the spire of Sridhar Maharaj's temple. A kirtan party greeted Prabhupada at the outer gates of Sridhar Maharaj ashram, chanting Hare Krishna and playing kartals and clay mridangas. Prabhupada entered the temple, offered obeisances before the deities of Radha and Krishna, and then went to see his godbrother. Sridhar Maharaj was very old, his sight failing, his joints stiff with arthritis. He stayed mostly in his room or sometimes on his veranda and moved only with slow, rickety motions. He was an austere and kindly Vaishnava and smiled heartily on seeing Prabhupada and his disciples. In fluent English, he began praising Prabhupada's preaching in America, repeatedly using Prabhupada's phrase, Krishna consciousness. Swamiji's work, he said, was a fulfillment of Lord Chaitanya's prophecy that Krishna consciousness would one day spread all over the world. He laughed and smiled and praised the Krishna consciousness movement with no trace of jealousy. So you appreciate this phrase, Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada smiled. Yes, Srila Maharaj replied. And the disciples of Swami Maharaj also. And he turned towards Achyutananda and Ramanuja. With very little effort, your preaching will go far. The boys were astonished. This was really something to write home about. Sitting on the roof of a temple in this jungle paradise with old Sridhar Maharaj appreciating Swamiji's work as the greatest work on behalf of Lord Chaitanya, and Swamiji sitting relaxed, grinning, and making humble replies. It was the high point of the trip. Prabhupada in a letter, my dear Satswarup, please accept my blessings. I have already duly received the invitation from Harvard University. It is understood that they are scheduling me for 20th of November between 6 and 10 p.m. I can start immediately on the strength of my visitor's visa, but I'm awaiting for Mukunda's reply for his time for my permanent visa. Yesterday, we have all come to Navadvip. This place is another establishment of one of my godbrothers. It is very nice and extensive place, and my godbrother, B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, has spared one entire nice house for our stay. He has also agreed to cooperate with our society. We shall observe his birthday ceremony tomorrow, and the brahmacharis shall learn how to celebrate the spiritual master's birthday. End of quote. Vyas Puja Day, the observance of B.R. Sridhar Maharaj's birthday, was October 27. His disciples had erected a pandal on the temple road, and about 100 people attended. Sridhar Maharaj sat on his Vyasasan, and Prabhupada and other sannyasis, all wearing flower garlands, sat in chairs next to Sridhar Maharaj. Prabhupada spoke in Bengali. Some of Sridhar Maharaj's disciples, inspired by Prabhupada's preaching about the glories of spreading Krishna consciousness in the West, delivered speeches in English as Vyaspuja homages to their spiritual master. Sridhar Maharaj, also speaking in English, gave a very scientific lecture on Krishna consciousness and the senses. Afterwards, Prabhupada told his disciples, he has very high realizations, but he is keeping them to himself. Every morning before dawn, Sridhar Maharaj sent out a party of brahmacharis to perform kirtan in the villages. On Prabhupada's request, Achyutananda and Ramanuja joined them, leaving before sunrise and returning at dusk. Although Prabhupada and Sridhar Maharaj usually remained at the temple, one day they got into a rickshaw and accompanied the chanting party to the streets of Navadvip. The festival at the Devananda Mat was a big affair. In contrast to Bhaktisaranga Goswami's ashram in Calcutta, where only widows had attended, B.P. Kesav Maharaj Devananda Mat had about 200 brahmacharis and 20 sannyasis. Some of the brahmacharis, however, were not full-time, but were attending school outside. So the ashram's atmosphere was a little like that of a social club. But when the kirtan and the circumambulation of the temple began, 700 people took part. The impeccably dressed sannyasis, whose every piece of saffron cloth, including their cloth-wrapped dandas, was dyed exactly the same shade, danced back and forth before the deities. A dozen sannyasis danced in a group, their dandas moving together, dipping and rising, forward and back, to the delight of the brahmacharis. Prabhupada sat on the dais with other dignitaries and spoke to the festival audience. Achyutananda, on Prabhupada's request, spoke a few words in Bengali, bringing laughs and applause. Srila Maharaj spoke gravely in Bengali. A sannyasi from the Devananda Mat, speaking for their absent leader, B.P. Kesav Maharaj, proclaimed in impassioned tones that although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement had been predicted to spread throughout the world, no one had known how it could be possible. Now, thanks to the work of Bhaktivedanta Swami, it was happening. After a large feast in the evening, Prabhupada's party returned to Sridhar Maharaj ashram. Sridhar Maharaj intimated to Prabhupada that the Devananda Mat emphasized quantity, whereas his own ashram emphasized quality. Curious as to what this meant, Achyutananda wanted to ask Prabhupada, but the time did not seem appropriate. After 9 days in Navadvip, Prabhupada was ready to return to Calcutta and prepare for his trip back to the United States. He and his 2 disciples took rickshaws to Navadvip and caught a morning train to Calcutta. On the train, Achyutananda timidly put forward the question that had been on his mind. Swamiji, what did you and Sridhar Maharaj discuss? Oh, many, many things, Prabhupada replied. But if I were to tell you now, you would faint. After a silence, Prabhupada added, still, I offered him to be president of our society. I knew he would not accept. He is keeping things within him. Anyway, this is all beyond you. Do not have any ill feelings towards any of my God brothers. They are all great souls. There are just some differences on preaching and spreading. Even in your mind, do not feel any ill will towards them. At the same time, do not mix very thickly with them. Achyutananda suggested, maybe if these 2 sannyasis had each other's qualities combined. Ah, yes, Prabhupada said, now you have understood me. So we can end this reading here today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam ki jai. Sapsav Das Goswami ki jai. Anyone has any question or comments? All right. Hare Krishna.